Good morning, Professor. I am Joseph Ho Vietang. I belong to the Minister of the Infirm Province, Vietnam. What is human wisdom according to Socrates? I will answer. The nature of Socrates' human wisdom is correctly elucidated by its identification with philosophia. Human wisdom is not a purely cognitive state. It is a state of living and desiring wisdom. Moreover, general aporia may be construed as the cognitive part of the composite. Is an awareness of not knowing without definite propositional content. The concept of human wisdom is the fundamental for an understanding of the apology, but it has not been properly understood. The received interpretations offer insufficient resources for explaining how Socrates could have been humanly wise before Apollos Agricola, when he falsely believes that he was not wise at all. I argue that the satisfactory interpretation of human wisdom can be given in terms of philosophia. Socrates was humanly wise before the Agrarian before because he loves wisdom. Even though he did not know that he did. The analysis is confirmed by its resolution of some enduring difficulty in the interpretation of apology. In particular, the question of why Socrates continued to search for knowledge he thought impossible to attain. What is Socrates' human wisdom? Two distinct answers to this question are discernible in recent scholarship. According to the first line of interpretation, Socrates' human wisdom consists in two things. The first, the first, the knowledge that he lacked divine wisdom, and the second, his actual possession of some kind of low-grade propositional knowledge. The apology does not support the view that Socrates' human wisdom incorporates propositional knowledge. The text is perfectly clear. Socrates is in some sense wise because he knows that he is not wise. Even if Socrates' knowledge of his ignorance is compatible with propositional knowledge, Sophia is not essentially constituted by propositional knowledge of any kind. A second line of interpretation denies that human wisdom consists even partly in first-order knowledge. Rather, Socrates' wisdom is held to consist in his knowledge of his lack of wisdom. That is his humility. While the rejection of the first-order knowledge requirement on human wisdom is faithful to the text, the precise structure of Socrates' humility remains opaque. The task of constellation is complicated by the fact that Socrates offers several divergent descriptions of his epistemic state during the course of the oracle narrations. How then to make sense of apology, where Socrates says, what is the probable sentiment is that in fact the God is wise and that his oracular response means that human wisdom is worth little or nothing. One possibility to deploy a distinction between Socratic and ordinary human wisdom, restricting the scope of the opposed claim to the latter. Another is to interpret the claim comparatively and is involving exaggeration. Human wisdom of its little value in comparison with divine wisdom. That means Sophia. The details are in the present context somewhat unimportant. The apology cannot sustain an interpretation of Socrates' human wisdom as categorically lacking in value. The notion of general aporia fits with the text of the apology. Socrates' initial description of himself as being conscious that he is not wise at all. The variable between this definition of the philosophia and the portrayal of Socrates in apology is striking. I have offered some reason from thinking that Socrates' human wisdom is philosophia. I now want to put my hypothesis to work by showing that it offers a satisfying explanation of the oracle narration. I will begin by restarting the problem to which other accounts of human wisdom are susceptible, but now reformulated as the requirements on an interpretation of the oracle narration. I will then show that my proposed hypothesis satisfies each of the requirements. If the reasoning is reserved, we may conclude by abduction that the account is likely to be true. The hypothesis that human wisdom is philosophia sacrifice of the condition. Philosophia is to be identified with a state in which one recognizes that one is worth nothing in respect of Sophia. Socrates' pursuit of knowledge of virtue is genuine. The object of his search is Sophia. Philosophy involves striving for wisdom and not for anything less. However, given the likelihood that human beings cannot become truly wise, particular aporia is near inevitable psychological byproduct of searching, hence justifying the return to general aporia. This bar remains even then inquiry bring about epistemic improvement. In addition, while Socrates does not want his inquiries to fail, it failed inquiry, say, in the sense that virtue resists his attempt to pin it down, keep him in a divinely upright state, and confirm his interpretation of the meaning of the oracle. Socrates does not want his inquiries to fail. Socrates has a reason to continue searching of the meaning of the oracle. Socrates has a reason to continue searching because he recognizes that philosophia is a valuable condition of the soul and philosophy a valuable activity. Socrates comes to understand the nature of human wisdom is important for his philosophical development. It effectively marked his conversion to the philosophical life, not in the sense that he was not living the philosophical life before the oracle, but in that he came to be self-conscious about what he was doing. The conceptualization of the good human life as the life of philosophy is philosophy come to awareness of itself. My argument for this camp is a simple one. In order to live a life of a certain sort, say a doctor, one requires an ideal which is capable of serving as an object of aspiration and self-regulation. Medicine becomes a vocation only when the value of health is recognized and used as an organizing principle. Similarly, philosophy becomes a vocation only when its value is recognized. Before the oracle, Socrates thought of himself as radically deficient. After the oracle, he was able to see the value in his mode of being. In recognizing the value of general aporia, that is, in recognizing the importance of the commitment to knowledge enabled by his sense of ignorance, Socrates is able to live a life of philosophy. The function of the oracle is, therefore, to legitimate the life that he had been living before the oracle. While Socrates was humanly wise before he knew it, for this is why the God approved of him. His interpretation of the oracle is that his characteristic psychological state of general aporia is of normative significance because it addresses philosophia. It's unclear why Socrates continued to live as had been living. It's how a human being ought to live. Thank you, Professor.